guys, Coach Kelsey here with our series on the Enneagram. Today we have another interview. Today's guest is Morgan Robrock. Morgan, welcome. Thank you for being here. Fun fact, not only did you play at Empowered for 2 years, but you currently play for me at Huntington University. So this is going to be a lot of fun. You know I'm very passionate about the Enneagram and could talk about it for days at a time. So it's something we've embraced on our team too, because I think there really is a benefit to understanding your players or your teammates' numbers for a variety of reasons. So we're gonna dive in today into talking about your number, which is the 9, the Peacemaker, and I'm really excited about it. So 9s in general, they're typically described as easygoing, reassuring, receptive, agreeable, and complacent. Does that check out for you? Would you say that describes you, or how would you describe yourself?
I think that 100% kind of nails it right on the head. I'm very easygoing, yes, agreeable. Anyone can say anything to me and I'll just be like, yeah, totally, yeah. If that's what you think, sure, go for it. So, yes.
I love it. There's certain people that I think become what I would call like a poster child for certain numbers, where it's like they fit to a T what that number would be. And so it sounds like maybe you're one of those. You're a poster child 9. I love it.
Yep.
Well, the basic fear of a 9 is of loss and separation. What would you say has been your experience with that, or do you relate to that fear in your day-to-day life?
I think that sometimes I do relate to that, especially because I am so agreeable. Sometimes it's because of, oh my gosh, if I don't agree with what they're saying, or if I don't go along with whatever's happening, then we won't be friends anymore, or I will lose this relationship, or like just like little things like that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
That totally makes sense. And my counselor actually taught me one day, she said, disagreement does not have to mean disconnection. So that's even a message that I've needed to hear before. You know, you can disagree with someone and it not lead to you to disconnecting in the relationship, but sometimes it can feel like that, and it makes sense why that would be scary.
Yeah, I feel like that's definitely how I'm getting better at it. And
we're growing together.
Yes, we are growing, and I'm getting better at being like, okay, just because I don't agree with this, or just because I definitely do not have the same opinion, does not mean that we have to like completely hate each other or anything. Like,
yes.
It's always an extreme in my head. So
yes. So it's knowing that there can be that healthy balance. It doesn't have to be one or the other extremes.
Yep.
Well, on the other side of things, you know, that's the basic fear. The basic desire is to have inner stability and peace of mind. Tell me about your experience with that desire.
Well, again, with the agreeableness, I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself.
That's okay.
But with that, just comes with peace of mind, and just being able to be like, okay, I'm good. I had this conversation with this person. I had this conversation with this person. Like, I'm fine. I'm at peace. And it's also, I think we're going to talk about our areas of growth later, but
yes,
just some like anxious thinking and like overthinking. I think I don't think that's something I struggle with. That is something that I struggle with.
You're owning it. We appreciate your transparency.
Yes, and again, I'm growing through, like, you can always keep growing, and I'm working towards getting to that overall peace of mind. But
yes.
It's something that I strive to have.
Yes, absolutely. Well, within that, I feel like this translates nicely into the next concept, these key motivators. So, you know, one of those being that you want to have peace of mind. But I'm going to read some of these key motivators for a 9, and then I just want to see how they fall. You know, I'm going to say it, and we're going to see how that lands with you, if you connect to those or not. So here they are. Number 1, to create harmony in their environment, to avoid conflicts and tension, to preserve things as they are, and then lastly, to resist whatever would upset or disturb them. Are we hitting the nail on the head again, or?
Yep. Every single one that you said, I was like, okay, yep, that one works. Oh, okay, yep, that one is too. Oh, wow, all right, okay. So yes, those are all very accurate. I can't really explain more because
you're like, yes, that's it. It's like a little self-assessment. Yes, where you're like, check, yes, check. Has there been one of those that you feel like is the biggest motivator for you? So seeking harmony, avoiding conflict, preserving things as they are, resisting what could upset you. Like out of those 4 things, is there one where you're like, that's the highest priority to me?
I feel like avoiding conflict is my number one. It goes along with just agreeing with certain things and just kind of, I always just like avoid the situation and like take myself out of like something like, especially like when my sisters fight or something, and they're like in an argument, they're like, Morgan, what do you think? And I'm like, I am staying out of this.
Slowly step away.
No, I'm on both of your sides and neither of your sides at the same time. So just don't get me involved. I'm gonna go in my room. You guys hash whatever you need to. I will be somewhere else.
I love that so much, just that imagery and what you said about I'm on both of your sides and neither of your sides at the same time. I'm sure there's a lot of 9s that could hear that and say, yes, you just put into words exactly what I feel every day. That's so funny. So here's kind of a bonus question. You talked about how, that key motivator for you is avoiding conflict. What does that look like for you in the context of volleyball? Especially, you're a setter on our team, so you play this role where, I believe setters become the quarterback on the floor. They're leading the offense, and so there's naturally a lot of leadership opportunities that come with that position, and I've seen you, grow beautifully as a leader over the past several years. But how does wanting to avoid conflict, how does that then look when it comes to playing college volleyball?
Well, it's kind of, I'm glad you asked. When I play volleyball, I don't know how, in my mind, I think, now, it just kind of, being a 9 is just kind of like out the door for me. And like freshman year, even a little bit sophomore year, like it was kind of still in the mix, but I feel like as I've grown as a person, I've just learned to kind of control some of those 9 tendencies that are like just like back away, stay in the background, let's just make everyone happy, let's just keep going, everything's okay. But I feel like as I've grown as a leader and taken this this role, especially being the setter, I've kind of learned to be like, okay, Morgan, like you can't make everyone happy, like you have to run this set, you have to like do this play, like like I know the floor and like I can see like everyone, rather than like one person just being like, okay, like this is my best one, I can really hit this. Like it's kind of where like that leadership comes in, and I'm just kind of like, nope, I'm not a 9 right now, I'm just saying what I must, and this is what we are running. And so definitely comes in the mix, like avoiding conflict and like other things. But I feel like in volleyball, I'm just kind of like, this is what we're running, and this is what we're doing, and we're gonna do good.
I love that. I love that you're able to embrace that on the court, and I can see that in you, and I almost wonder, and we'll get there, what you point to in growth. I'm almost wondering if maybe that's something that's coming into play in the context of volleyball, which is really cool. So we'll get there, to be continued.
Okay.
So everyone loves talking about the strengths of their number. That's a lot more fun to talk about than areas of growth, but we do have to do the areas of growth as well. But we're going to start with the fun part. We're going to start with the strengths. Okay. So typically strengths for 9s are the ability to see multiple perspectives, remaining calm and adaptable, supporting and reassuring those around them, mediating conflict between others, and being open-minded and suspending judgment. So that's a lot of strengths that I truly believe you possess. What would you consider your biggest strength, and how do you see that being helpful in your life?
I feel like remaining calm and adaptable, I feel like that one kind of does play in a role with volleyball, because when we're in a rut, when we've just kind of gone through a bunch of points to the other team or something, and we're all just like in our heads, I feel like sometimes I can just be like, you know what, like this is a game that we all love, and we're all frustrated right now, but we can just like get through it. And like sometimes I'm just like, I don't even remember what happened last play, if I'm being completely honest. So let's just move forward. Like everything's fine. So I feel like that calmness is over me also in volleyball. Not all the time, as you know, being my coach.
We all have our moments, and that is okay. But I definitely agree that that's something that you consistently bring, is that sense of calm. And I think every team needs to have a player like that, where they just remain calm and steady no matter how chaotic the game is getting, because then, teammates can look at you and it's like, okay, Morgan's okay, so I think I can be okay. I can take a deep breath too and kind of, shift perspective and just move on to the next play rather than getting caught up in what's happened before. So I've watched you do that, and I think that's really neat.
Thanks.
Yes, so very good. So the not as fun part, the areas of growth. It's an opportunity for vulnerability is what I like to call it. And I like to call it areas of growth instead of weaknesses, because it sounds better.
I like that. I did notice that. I'm like, oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yes. So, and every number has them. I feel like that's something I always have to address. Every number has strengths and areas of growth. No number is better than any other number. So we get that out there. Okay. So areas of growth for a 9 include difficulty facing personal conflict with others, the tendency to minimize problems, avoiding difficult or upsetting situations, and then being passive aggressive rather than addressing conflict. That one just makes me giggle. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm giggling at that. My question for you is, which of those is the most challenging for you and why?
I think that the one about avoiding conflict and like minimizing conflict, I feel like especially in my relationships, like friendships and more than friends, like we can kind of go through a little rut or something, and sometimes like in my brain I'm being like, oh, like everything's okay, like nothing's happening, like kind of like remaining calm, but at the same time like that would be a time where I need to kind of step up and be like, okay, clearly an issue's going on here, we need to solve it. And that kind of goes back to what we were saying about like how a disagreement doesn't need to be disconnection.
Yes.
But just sometimes in my head I'm just like, oh my goodness, like if I disagree, then like it's gonna be so bad and we're not gonna be friends anymore, or oh my goodness, like we're gonna break up if I don't agree with him on this one thing. Like when in reality it's like, and I've learned since then, like agree to disagree. That's like my new thing. I'm just like, I do not think the same and I don't feel the same, but I feel like if we continue to have a conversation about it, neither of us are going to kind of like get what we want or like come to a solution. So we're just going to be like, okay, this is just something that we are not going to agree on. Yes. So I feel like the area of growth is growing for me in that area. So that's awesome. And it's, again, there's that balance of, being able to say, I'm going to be open-minded, I want to seek to understand others, and to also be able to say, I'm going to own my own thoughts and opinions and feelings, and that be okay. It makes me think of, we just had one of our camps this summer, and I was talking to you guys at our campers, and we were going to take a vote on something silly like, do you want to eat s'mores an hour later? But I told everybody, you're gonna raise your hand and vote, but we're not doing the whole like close your eyes, that way no one knows what you voted for. Like you're gonna own your opinion and it's gonna be okay. Yep. Oh, and it cracked me up because there was only 2 people that had put their hands up for s'mores later. And they both had their hands up, and one of them, as soon as she realized that everybody else was like voting the opposite as her, just like slowly started putting her hand down. I was like, no, own your decision, own your desire. But I know that's a silly example, but I think that's really neat that you feel like that's something you've grown in, that you can say, no, like this is what I think, or this is what I want, and I know that's okay. And we can still be in relationship with each other. Yeah. So I'm proud of you for that. Well, the next piece I want to talk about is how every number reflects the character of God in some way. And for the type 9, that is through his peace in unity. And I love that for a 9. I'm also married to a 9, so I've always told you like, oh, no wonder I like you. Like, I love 9s. I'm married to a 9. But that is one thing that I've seen evidently and beautifully in you, Morgan. The fact that you do have such a calming presence that I think leads other people to feel very safe around you. And not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to know that you are someone they can go to and experience a sense of peace and safety, know that they're cared for. And then, you're a dream of a leader, as a coach to have on a team because of that unity piece. God
God brings people together in relationship, wants to create connectedness through him. And I watch you do that on our team, making sure that nobody's left out, making sure that everyone's connecting with each other, maybe even stepping out of their comfort zone when it comes to that. And so I just have really appreciated seeing that in you, and it's something that inspires me. So I definitely think I'm going to take the opportunity to say you're the poster child when it comes to how a 9 reflects the character of God.
Well, thanks.
Of course, of course. So let's talk a little bit about where a 9 points in stress and growth. So we already started to think that maybe you're pointing to your growth number when you play volleyball. We'll see. But let's talk about the stressed one first.
Okay.
So a 9, when they are stressed, they will point to a number 6 on the Enneagram, which is the loyalist, and they'll start to take on some of those negative traits, if you will. So what that can look like is becoming overcommitted, worried, rigid, anxious. My question to you is, does that check out? What's your experience when you feel stressed, or how do you, maybe I should say it this way, how do you know I'm entering a stress state?
I feel like just anxious in general is kind of just like always in me. Again, growing, working on it.
Yes.
Of course. But I feel like when I'm stressed out, I just feel like super, like, I just know it's anxious because, like, one, my thoughts are just like going and going and going and going. Whatever I'm stressed about, I'm like, what if this happens? What if this happens? Oh my goodness, this is gonna happen. Like, stuff like that. But also just like, I physically am like really tight and like rigid, like you said. And I'm just like I just don't breathe as well.
Yes.
Like, I'm always fine, don't worry. But like, I'm just like I can just physically feel like I'm really tight and and with the overthinking, and then from there I can be like, okay, like this would be a time where I need to kind of channel that peace and like calm down in whatever way I need to calm down. And also you mentioned overcommitted, and I feel like that is also something I'm struggling with. I like to plan things like accordingly and make it like, okay, so I'm doing this from 9 to 2, and then this, like, okay, like I could do it at like 2:30, like by the time I get there. So I'm always just like right on top of another, like I don't really allow time for the breathing, and therefore I get even more stressed, and so it's kind of just overlapping on top of one another.
I'm smiling because I connect with that. It's taken me a long time to realize I need to build margin into my schedule. So just because one thing ends at 2 and it's, a 30-minute drive does not mean you can be somewhere at 2:30. Like let's allow a little bit more margin. I'm still working on that. And so it's neat how you're able to connect to that piece too, and can say that you're experiencing growth in it as well. With that anxiety piece, it just made me think about how anxiety is not only mental, but it's physical too. A lot of times our bodies know we feel a certain way before we, even our brains do, which I think is fascinating. I've had that experience where all of a sudden I feel like my heart's racing, or I've got that like pit in my stomach. And I'm like, why do I feel that way? Like, what's going on? And then it causes me to pause and process and be like, oh, I'm anxious about this thing. And so I just think it's good that you're pointing out, like, anxiety is both a mental, emotional experience, but also a physical one. And a lot of times we can see those warning signs pretty early on. And I think the most important thing we can do in that moment is to focus on breathing, because not only is that helping set aside those a million miles per hour thoughts that we're having in our brains, but also, releases the tension in our muscles and helps slow down that heart rate. And so I think that's neat that you've tried to focus on that alone. Breathing can be super helpful. Well, very good. Well, 9s also have a wing number, just like every number on the Enneagram. And so it's the number on either side of a number that becomes their wing. It's like their secondary number. They just take on some additional traits from their wing number. And so your options as a 9 become that you're either a wing 1, which is the reformer perfectionist, which is my number, or a wing 8, which is the challenger. So my question for you is, do you know your wing, and how do you know that that's the case?
I don't know a ton about all the other numbers.
That's okay.
9, but I know when we were reading whatever book we were reading like last year or the year before, I can't remember, about all of the Enneagram numbers.
Oh yes, The Road Back to You.
Yes, that one. Good book, by the way.
I know, highly recommend. I think that's one of the best resources.
Yes. I feel like when I was reading the 1, I kind of connected to it more. So I can't speak too much on it because I don't really remember, if I'm being completely honest. But I know that I was just like, oh yeah, okay. But with the 8, I was kind of like a little bit, not really.
Sure.
So more on a 1.
Yeah, and that's a lot of times I think that's how it goes with wings, is people can actually relate to a few traits on both sides.
Yeah.
There just tends to typically be one that they lean into a little bit more in. And I think that would make sense if that were the one, the reformer or perfectionist for you, just in light of some things that you've shared today. So, and that's always something that you can learn even more about. One thing that I think is interesting is if someone is a 9, wing 8, it almost becomes, it's a very unique experience because 9's being the peacemaker, but 8's being the challenger who almost thrive in conflict, and the 9s are trying to avoid it. It's just a very unique experience to be a 9 wing 8. I have a friend that's a 9 wing 8, and I think it's fascinating to listen to her explain just what that is like for her. So I've always been fascinated by that. It's almost like an oxymoron, you know what I mean, to be both at once, but there are people out there that are 9 wing 8s, and I think that's really interesting. So now we get to talk about where a 9 points to in growth. And so for a 9, they take on the positive characteristics of a 3, the achiever. So this looks like them being ambitious and driven and able to express needs and take care of themselves. They're able to communicate through conflict, and they're able to prioritize accurately in their life. And so we touched on this earlier. We're wondering if maybe that's what's happening on the court for you. Maybe you're embracing some of these characteristics, and it's what's allowing you to not be held back in any way in regards to that desire to not have conflict. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. What do you think? Do you think that's what could be happening?
I think that when I'm on the court, I don't think about anything else except volleyball.
Yeah.
And I feel like we kind of have this saying, you can describe it a little bit better, like once we step past that line, like everything that happened that day, everything that we're struggling with, like any kind of thoughts we have, like that's still back there, like outside or like off the court. Like once you're on the court, like that's where you can obviously like be yourself still, and like we're still like with everyone, but at the same time it's just like we're here, we're playing volleyball, we're with each other. Like you don't need to worry about anything that you're thinking about outside of volleyball or anything like that. So I feel like with that, all of those areas of growth, or not weaknesses, but weaknesses of a 9, those kind of like leave me. And I think that's where I kind of am at my best, and that's where I channel the 3 strengths, and that's where I can be more driven and being like, okay, this is what I want to run, so we're gonna run it. And then if it doesn't work out, instead of being all like, okay, like wow, I can be like, I was wrong, now let's do this. And so I feel like a lot of my like anxious thoughts and like overthinking and all of that just kind of like leaves. And then I can just channel the strengths of a 3 or other strengths of 9.
Absolutely. What would you say is your favorite thing about pointing to a 3 in growth? What do you enjoy the most?
I feel like just like the whole like being driven aspect of it, because I'm normally so like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Like, sure, like, no, you go first, or like, you pick first, or like, just like kind of always, and like my choice, not that I'm ever like being put in the background, but I'm always just kind of like, yeah, like, okay, we'll just do whatever you want. But I feel like with that driven aspect, I can be like, no, like, this is what I want, and like, like I want to do this, or like when you're just like, hey guys, like, what drill should we do? We only have a couple more minutes, like instead of being like, oh yeah, you want that, like I could just be like, yeah, I want to do this, or like with something like super random or something. I call those the for the people moments where you know, we've got a few minutes, we can do this or this, like I'm gonna let you guys choose. And I like that you're like, you know what, no, I'm gonna voice my opinion here on what I think, and
please know when those moments happen for you, like I am celebrating internally right alongside you. I love that, you know, when I see that come out where there's this confidence in leadership and, you know, that you're driven and want to go out and achieve and willing to communicate the hard things in a loving way to your teammates. You know, I'm celebrating right alongside you. I think that's really cool. So as we're starting to wrap up here, I have a couple questions I want to end with. And the first one is, what do you wish people understood more about a 9?
I think that a lot of the times people will see a 9 and just like automatically think like, oh, they're just like introverted, or like, oh, they just like don't like talking to people, or oh, they're just like super quiet. And I feel like, yes, I am all of those things, but at the same time, like there's just always this like internal, like I know what I want, but I just like don't want to say it for whatever. Like just that 9 in me is just like avoiding conflict. Like, yes, I don't want to disturb anyone. I don't want to interrupt anything when in reality, like I just need to voice my opinion, and it's most of the time like not that big of a deal. Like, just say what you want. So I feel like something that can help a 9, like from the outside going to a 9, just like a lot of patience and a lot of just like not standing up for them, but standing up for them and just being like okay, like hey, like do you have anything you want to say? Or, like not really like putting, especially with me, like don't like put me on the spot, like that would probably freak me out even more. But at the same time, just kind of being like, okay, like this is me voicing my opinion, so like when that does happen, it's like kind of a big deal. So I feel like that kind of happens sometimes with me, where I'm just like okay, like in my head I'm like, okay, this is what I want, even if it's something like this is what I want for dinner or something. Like oh man, I really want chicken, or I really want Chinese. Like, so here I am, like I want Chinese, and everyone's just like, ugh. And I'm just like, man, the one time that I say what I want is just, but yeah, so like little things like that. It's just like, this is me trying, and if it sounds dumb, just be like, thank you, Morgan, or thank you, other 9, for voicing your opinion. We appreciate you.
And I think it's so important to recognize that that is a big deal for you as a 9. You know, it's not you just flippantly throwing something out there to throw something out there. Like for some people that might be second nature, but for you, you had to make the conscious decision to say, I want this and I'm going to tell them. You know, and that feels big. And so I think those promptings can be helpful. I mentioned earlier that I'm married to a 9, and one thing I've realized is I come home from the day, and anything that I want to share with my husband, Zach, I just share it. So I don't need prompted. It's just like, here, this happened and let me tell you this story. Whereas I've learned with him, like, I need to prompt him a little bit. He might not come through the door and just say like, here's everything that happened to me today that's important to me, or to him. But I may have to ask some questions or say, hey, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? And so I think giving 9s, you know, 9s have a voice, no doubt, but giving them an opportunity to use it, I think can be such a gift. So the last question I want to ask you is, how can someone best love, support, and motivate you as a 9?
I think I touched on it a little bit before, but patience is just really big, and it's kind of key because I don't have a lot of patience for myself and I have a lot of patience with others, but because I kind of give all of my patience out, I'm not really, and not to myself. Like, I don't really have it in me, so I feel like someone could best love me by giving me that patience and giving me that just like sense of calmness, especially when I am stressed out or something, and they can just be like, okay, like as a 9, it's just like, just knowing what a 9 is. That's another thing. But just being like, okay, she needs a little bit more patience right now. She's going through whatever she's going through, and just keeping it cool, especially when I am not keeping it cool. So
Well, I think that's really interesting what you're saying, that you know, patience is something that you have for other people. I think that's a gift of a 9. You know, they're able to have that patience for other people, and keep it cool and keep it chill. However, you know, I think it's interesting that you're saying that's not something though that a 9 always has for themselves. And so that can be, you know, just such a valuable gift to have somebody else be patient with you just like you want to be with others. So very good. Morgan, this has been a blast. I've enjoyed it. You rocked it, and I just appreciate hearing so much about your heart, your journey of growth, and it's such an honor to be your coach and to get to know your heart. And so it's been so much fun just to hear more of that journey that you've been on in our time together today. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Well, please be sure to join us next time for another Enneagram interview where we will dive into another number.